Shiny object syndrome. I'm back. I'm so sorry. Hold, and I will go over to the appropriate area so I don't get shiny object syndrome. Like a mobo. Even though it's already going in full, like, it's all its glory. Anyway, so I've got my everything is political shirt on. I think that checks the boxes. I'm still low key channeling the middle of the marsh because I desperately want to go back. Yep. Definitely want to go back. I just not come back. Why? I mean, shit, we've homeschooled before. I mean, we can do it again. Um, so fucking tempting. Except I'm not going to do that to my son. He thoroughly enjoys being with his peers, so I can't. As much as I would love to just say fuck it and bail, I can't. Um, because God knows that kid has been through it and then some, and if the child is happy, then the child is gonna get what he wants because he deserves it. Mama ain't gonna be selfish when it comes to that. So, um, what did I want to say? Oh, yeah, no, it's been a month. How do y'all feel? I feel like it's been a fucking month. Um, I don't know if you guys noticed, but I did change some things around. On well, my Instagram is no longer called Pesky Dyslexia Parent, nor is my Facebook page. I decided since I couldn't get people who are, elected officials that follow me on the pesky platform but couldn't figure out how to follow me on my other one. Yeah, them. Oh, it's so hard. So I decided to just nuke pesky from orbit. I'll do that with my Substack after this is done. I've given up trying to lead a horse to water because it's like moving a fucking mountain. Yeah. It is. It really is. It's actually painful for me. Really painful. Um, so it's a month in, I think. Are we at the month? Are we at the month? I think we're at the 4 week mark, right? Well, four week mark, right? Jesus fuck, why do I have so many notifications? Sorry. Y'all, I can't. The cab is just the cabin. Like we convicted felon ex-mayor charged for seeking. Yeah, so the Stonecrest mayor, um, he was running or ex-mayor, who was a convicted felon. He was trying to seek a council seat. And then some stuff just dropped, and they're like, "Oh no, 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 you don't." Mm-mm. The cab is just out here. The cabin. Um, so that's just the irony. And yeah, Dan, it's cracking me up too. So it's not that, yeah, it's. I'll do that with my subs. Hold on, you got me. Oh, and yeah, Dan, it's cracking me up too. So okay, so you guys can actually. Okay, anyway, moving on. Shiny object. Um, I'm not gonna like make this a ranty thing. I'm just jumping in, saying hi, and doing the rounds and looking at the things and kind of assessing and looking at what people are like. Ooh, look at this. Ooh, I got you. I'm like, that's not it. That's not it. And I'm not dragging. Not dragging. I have to make that crystal clear because somebody showed up in my DMs on my personal account, got in the feels, ain't no got it. She ain't got nothing to do with the cab. I'm just gonna leave it at that. She showed up in her my fucking messages and she said what she said, and I was like, well, there you go. We know who pays for what now, don't we? Maybe not. I'm sorry. I had to take that one petty pot shot because god damn, it's been almost 4 years. I've wanted to do that for 4 years. So I'm only like I'm doing this because obviously tomorrow is Thanksgiving. Not Thanksgiving. See, like I'm like projecting to get the fuck out of the month of October. Um, that's how much I hate October. I hate the month of October. I stand on that. I'm not budging. Anyway, tomorrow is Halloween, my daughter's favorite holiday. But on November 1st, everything in the house is going to be turned into Christmas real quick. Um, I've spent the last 2 days in the city where I'm really still kind of salty that we're not out, we're not in. As much as I do love where we live, like the convenience and just like the cute and it's like this neighborhood, the community feel of where my son goes to school. Like I spent like my life, like 18 to 27 years old. That's where I lived. True story. Before it was really expensive. Yeah. We lived in that. I mean, like all of us at some point. Like we all, like, it was like a weird thing. We all migrated to different areas of the city, but we all definitely lived in that area for a long time. And the plan was to stay there, but then life happened. But the cool thing about the past 2 days was that I got to be around what I call my people. I call them my people or my humans because they're good humans. And they actually care about kids and they tend not to give a shit about anything else. In fact, no, I'm not gonna go down that rabbit hole. I got to meet some really cool kids who were just the sweetest little things ever. And I just wanted to like low key grab them and take them home with me, even though I like handling 2 kids. I can't even like manage my 7 or soon to be 7-year old, so that's just not gonna happen. But like everybody's like, "Are you Sawyer's mom? You Sawyer's mom?" Yes. Do you work here? No. And then when like my son came in, I don't even know the little girl's name. She was just adorable. She goes, "He's a lot taller than you. Are you're sure you're his mom?" I'm like, mm-hmm. My son's like 6 foot. I'm 5'2", so yeah, it looks a little weird. And in a little kid's head, they're like, "Huh, your son is a giant. You're a midget." Um, yeah. And my son was really funny because he said, "Mom, remember, that's a kid. Just humor them." I'm like, "You do know that I don't just go sideways at kids, right? Like I fight for kids, so I reserve me and all of the isms that come along with me. That only gets taken out on people that deserve it, that hurt kids." He was like, "Oh, I forgot about that part." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm a mom." He's like, "Yep, sorry about that. Going back to class." I'm like, "Cool." Um, sorry. It's just my son's is he's funny, and I actually really really enjoyed like being in that space, seeing my friends, seeing like these amazing humans doing everything they possibly could to make these kids enjoy their lives and enjoy the academic atmosphere. It actually kind of pulled me out of my funk because I mean my PTSD is just like raging right now. And I mean shit. But it pulled me out of it. It made me happy to be around my people or be around good humans. Not one single person there had like ill thing or like any rude things to say. In fact, like I've said this before, I get love bombed. My like random people will like, "Oh my God, that's your Sawyer's human." And I'm like, "Yes." And he's gonna kill me because I'm talking about him because he's 16 and he's not of the wanting to be on social media. He hates it. But anyway, I told one of the teachers, because she said he was like an old soul. I was like, "Yeah, he is." But I did ask him one summer. I asked him last summer actually. I said, "What is it you do?" that makes these kids so happy. And I think I've talked about this before. I'm taking my Doc Martens off. Okay, so you guys, yeah, I don't know. I think I'm regressing in age or some shit because I bought Doc Martens like a year and a half ago. But to which my husband this morning goes, "When did you get those?" I'm like, "I literally wore these out to dinner with your parents last week." He's like, "Did you?" I'm like, mm-hmm. Squirrel, squirrel. Sorry, it's just funny because we are that. You know what, Jason Estevez? If I see, sorry, that's kind of going to segue into what I'm. All I have to say is right now, I'm really happy we have sunshine laws in the state of Georgia where, people who are running for office and or political people who are already elected can't can't sue us for saying things because I'm dropping some receipts and talking shit about that man because I don't like him. And he knows, well, it's not that I don't like him. It's just I don't like that he's not present. Does that make sense? It's like him and Elena and like a couple others, and I'm like, I watched you guys. Right, I wasn't gonna do this, but I need to do this. So the reason I renamed everything to say Dirty South. Okay, so what I did was I named it Dirty South Georgia Politics, which is a play on Georgia poll, the hashtag, because I'm a very political person. Everything is political. Thanks to the bitter southerner. I gotta get. Do you see these big ass boots I have on? Jeez, so you can't see them. Fuck, they're huge. They're bigger than my fucking head. Okay, anyway, wait. I'm so sorry. I have to get these off my feet like, immediately because they are so gigantic and they hurt my. Hold on. Y'all just get to see me acting out. I don't care. You see how loud that was? Anyway, I'm gonna move around. I gotta move stuff. I gotta move stuff. Okay, so here's the thing. I renamed everything to reflect what I'm doing. And what I'm doing is what I do. And that's not advocacy. I have to state that repeatedly. I don't care about literacy advocacy. I don't. I don't. I swear to God, like, God forbid, I have like 5 minutes to myself. This is what happens. I'm about to go shut the door because, it's like this right now. Anywho, maybe not, but no, my God, I wish I had a button that just closed my door. I have a button that does everything else in my room, but yep, button shuts my door. Um, my son's asleep. My mom is fucking with my son. Anyway, that's always funny. Okay, so anyway, I renamed it, and this is like like I said last week when I said it. That was my last hurrah under the name of pesky dyslexia parent because I don't give a shit. I'm not the I'm not the chosen one, and I'm gonna stand on that. But I do know that I get more done, and I do know that I'm not tied to some sketchy money. It's okay. Um, so the landscape of what I'm doing now is, like I said, I'm hyper political. I am very political, actually. Everybody knows this about me. Who, what, now, what? Okay. Um, so the Jason Estevez thing, I just want to touch on that one, just once. Well, and Elena, but mainly Jason right now. Jason is a black man running for governor in the state of Georgia. And Jason got the like golden ticket endorsement from Jimmy Carter's grandson. Now, what does it say to people in the state of Georgia who are looking at the 12 to 15? Hell, I don't even know how many Democrats are running for fucking governor at this point. I mean, goddamn Thurman's running. The fuck? Last time I checked, but we were missing some money. Were you still, homie? Um, it says a lot to me when the guy that everybody is pushing forward, who again, like I have to repeat, that is a black man, and he ironically is a former board rep, and he's a senator, and he was handpicked to be on the Georgia early literacy committee, like that Georgia Reads campaign thing. Yeah, he was handpicked up to be on that because of moms doing that, getting that passed. Not him. We did that. Um, he didn't even show up to like the Truth About Reading screening. He didn't. No, actually, I don't think anybody did other than Becky and Bethany. Nobody else. It's kind of sad. But, it says a lot when a former APS board rep, remember, APS was notorious for the cheating scandal, where Fannie Willis brought teachers and principals and administrators up on RICO charges. Says a lot when a former APS board rep turned senator, who is now running for governor, who happens to be black, hasn't said a fucking word. Not one word. I went through all of his social media posts yesterday. I haven't seen a fucking thing. Unless he's caught us contents, which he doesn't do. Hold on. Hold on, I'm looking. I'm just checking because if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And like Jason is free to call me out. He knows where I'm at. I mean, Lord knows that homie slides up in my fucking DMs whenever he gets mad at me for checking him on some shit. So I'm just making sure I ain't missing anything. Nope, nope, I'm not missing anything. He still ain't said shit. So so then there is another individual, and I really hate to say, I'm not gonna say his name, but he is a sitting board rep. Now, he is the first teacher. This will give him away, but whatever. Most people in the state of Georgia don't even know who the fuck I'm talking about, so it's okay. There is a sitting board rep in APS who was the first teacher to be elected as a board rep in the state of Georgia in I think like 100 something years. Like they literally had to codify like under OCGA that it was allowed. And he was the first to actually win. And I am a huge fan of his. I've been backing him for years. One of my favorite, he's actually the owner of one of my favorite local clothing lines. And the shirt Education Over Incarceration, like one of my favorite shirts, comes from him. So the superintendent in APS, his name is Brian Johnson. Unfortunately, I have to bring literacy in for just 1 second. All right, so Brian Johnson performed the Mississippi Miracle, okay, with the assistance of Nakia Towns. Nakia was brought into Georgia by Calvin Watts. Calvin did some stunts. Nakia said fuck off, and she left, and now Nakia has a better job. I'm not going to go through that rabbit hole, but I will say there are a lot of photo ops that took place with Brian and somebody that's no longer in DeKalb County. There's a lot of connections between that person who's no longer in the district and that superintendent. Now, if I were this board rep and the former board rep who is running for governor, if I were them, I would be doing something like, oh, I don't know, try to make sure somebody makes a statement on behalf of 89,000 kids, which 95% of are black and brown kids. I digress. They're not just saying that. Now, I could be petty and I could post a photo of Brian Johnson and the former superintendent. I could put that all over social media, but Brian doesn't really deserve it. Do I think that Brian needs to say so? Yes, I think Brian needs to say something. And I'm gonna pitch a radical idea. Okay. This is my radical idea for DeKalb County and APS since they coexist. And even city schools Decatur. Actually, it would make more. No, that's a good option. My pitch is this: instead of bitching and moaning and bickering about who gets the taxes and who gets the land and which kids get served better and the response time from the cops in APS versus the response time for the cops in DeKalb County and then Decatur, they're all different municipalities, right? So even in like DeKalb County, so it's like you've got Brookhaven, then you've got Chamblee, then you've got, I mean, you've got all these different precincts, right? But in South DeKalb, that's not how it works. I lived in South DeKalb. I owned a home in South DeKalb. My first home was in South DeKalb. Unincorporated DeKalb at the time. Now it's all bougie and shit. And I'm like, damn, I should have kept my land. I should have kept my house because I had a whole bunch of fucking land. Anyway, um, I think my proposal would be maybe since after this very long 4 weeks and counting, my proposal is this: why not just why can't legislators have a conversation where they bring in the like conversation of it makes no sense to continue to keep these districts in a silo. Hear me out. So there's currently the conversation about selling Druid Hills, the land, to Emory. Fiscally, it makes sense. Devon Horton or not, it makes sense. Why would you want to spend that much money to bring that school up to conditions that are a look, as somebody that's an avid just believer in preserving old buildings and like stuff like that, I get it. But the time has passed. It's expired. The plumbing is shot. Okay, so let's take it into consideration. You would have to do the plumbing from the ground up. They've got clay pipes, okay? You'd have to redo all the plumbing. You'd have to redo all the all the electrical work. Do you know how expensive that is now? No, I'm guessing a lot of people don't. I do. Um, you'd have to bring it up to several codes that they are currently out of violation with. I don't care what people say. They're not in violation of there's so I'm gonna leave it on. Basically when they did that whole shindig where they got rid of Cheryl and then they said that they'd go forth and they do whatever they wanted to do for all the parents at Druid Hills because the kids shamed them. And I'm not dragging the kids, by the way. What the kids at Druid Hills did, shit, that's a boss move. I was like, yeah, go do you. Um, I know it's that whole and that's it's that whole thing where I just don't trust authority figures. So I'm all about kids just dragging the ever living shit out of people that are supposed to be the grown-ups. Maybe not. Why don't we do something? Okay, so I don't want to like get too far down the rabbit hole on that because like the expenses it would take to bring Druid Hills up to code, just basic code. The estimates that I've seen out there that are floating around are woefully inadequate. Woefully inadequate. Because every year it's not addressed, right? It gets worse. So every year that the things like the clay pipes and the electrical work that needs to be done every year, like it gets more expensive and then there's more that needs to be done. Because in DeKalb County specifically, we have a code, where we used to, in DeKalb County for plumbing specifically. You own a home in DeKalb County. Same for businesses. You had to make sure that you had low flow toilets. Trust me, as somebody who had to not only buy the home and get the paperwork to prove that we had that, and then sell the home and provide that copious amount of documents that we had that. Yeah, no, it's not fun. So do I think that it would be in the stakeholders' best interest to revive that school? No. Do I think Emory has the money to do what needs to be done? 100%. If Emory wants that land and they are willing to give over a gigantic amount of money, which we all know they have, then sure, do it. It makes sense. I know. Everybody's like, they love the location, but you're renting a parking lot. That doesn't make sense. And then, per the Georgia DOE, you have to have 48 acres to have a campus on. You don't have 48 acres over there. I'm sorry. Even modernizing the school won't bring you up to code. Um, so hear me out. Maybe just go ahead and sell the property to Emory, but don't allow the. So here's the thing. It's a weird plot twist for you guys, but it can be done. Sell the property, or I'm sorry, give it back to Emory, and make sure the money doesn't actually go into the coffers of the financials of the DeKalb County School District. They don't need it. They have plenty. They don't need it. So how about we take that money or any profits that may happen from selling it and give it to City Schools Decatur, who are right now having to consolidate things and shut schools and all that. Why not split the money with APS, who's having to do the same thing? DeKalb County has a lot of schools that need to be shut. A lot. As somebody who, like I said, who lived in South DeKalb, I can attest that there are brand new schools that nobody's in. Maybe 200 kids in a school built for like 1,200. Yeah. Um, I was watching the joint commissioners meeting today with the cab and or the board, and I saw Ted Terry, who immediately I wanted to launch at because I wanted to thump him. Like I was letting my son laugh because I was like thumping my screen every time I saw his face. I was like, mm. Did the same with Melanie too because she had a nickname before she was a commissioner. So sorry, Melanie. Um, but I was watching, and the best suggestion came from shocker Tiffany Hogan and what? You know why? South DeKalb. Do you know how much land is sitting out there? Do you know how much land is sitting out there that like has been purchased and never used and could be used to do things like, oh, I don't know, allow schools that need to expand or consolidate, um, maybe take the money or the profits from selling like Emory or giving Emory their land back, right? Why not take the money and build a school over in the Clarkston and in the Clarkston area and then also in um well mainly in the Clarkston area. Maybe I'm just weird because I've lived there and I know what it's like and I've seen the conditions and I lived through I mean literally my husband was walking our son one day and in our neighborhood and he saw bullet casings. And that's when my husband was like, yeah, no, we're putting a house up for rent now. I was like, okay. So we did. But it doesn't mean I didn't see what I saw. I saw it. But it doesn't mean that I didn't enjoy where we lived because I fucking loved it. I loved our tiny little 50s, 1950s brick bungalow that we redid from the ground up. I love it. I loved it. And I really hate the person that bought it because he immediately spray painted it gray and fucked up all of my yard work. Sorry. Um, there are some amazing schools that need to expand. And these aren't traditional schools. I don't know if anybody in the state knows or cares, or anybody in the cab knows or cares, but we've got a lot of like really cool schools that aren't under the purview of DeKalb County or APS or City Schools Decatur. And they're crammed into very small spaces because of the fact that DeKalb County refuses to, oh, I don't know, break off a piece of land or even a building that's just sitting there not being utilized. Yeah. So Tiffany and Awet, they said what they said, and Ted Terry, as much as I thumped his head via my phone, He said the right part. A wet is leaning into something that I know needs to happen, and I agree with Alette, and that is you need to have community gardens because that is inherently a part of their community. Community gardens, where that comes from is that, oh, I could go through this whole fucking novel, but I'm not going to. But it ties back to the 40 acres and a mule theory. So when I moved to East Atlanta when I was a kid, or when I was like 18, 19 years old, people still had farms in East Atlanta. People still had gardens in their yards. And in Eastlake, where the Great White Flight took place, next to that nice fancy golf course, that's where I lived. People still had gardens and they grew a lot of food and they fed their community. SNAP benefits. I mean, everybody knows how I feel about that shit. I've been putting my information out there for everybody to see. Because the outdated narrative of you must be lazy or some shit to be on Snap. You know what, you guys? I went through a hearing with an ALJ this week at the Georgia Department of Labor, and can I just tell you something? Going through that hearing was the equivalent of being in an IEP meeting in Gwinnett County, where every time you try to talk reason into the dipshit that's sitting across from you or that's in the meeting who is fumbling around to try. I'll never forget this. Who's fumbling around to try and quote IDEA and like, oh, well, Miss Taylor, we know you love your regs. I'm like, are you literally Googling IDEA right now? Yes. I'm like, okay, so yeah. Yeah. Um, sorry, that was a sidebar. But sitting on that hearing with an ALJ for the Georgia Department of Labor, and every time I attempted to like, oh, I don't know, give the statement she quite literally asked me to give her, she would interject. And then she would do things like, ma'am, you're on mute. Oh, you just said to give my testimony and you just put me on mute? Why? Well, ma'am, I'm interjecting because you need to stay the course. Oh, okay. Well, I am staying the course, but again, I'm trying to get to that part. But every time I get to the part where I say the Georgia Department of Labor allowed my former employer to block everything, you interject. She's like, ma'am, that's not relevant. I'm like, oh, okay. I was like, well, for my exhibit, page 5, my reasoning for appeal was right there. So are you denying me to use my own exhibit that you accepted 10 minutes ago? Ma'am, you're on mute. That's not going to go on record. Okay. Yeah. I just kept going. That's just how it is, right? So imagine how it feels going into that, knowing that I have a background dealing with people like that. And she wasn't phased. She didn't care. Sorry, I have a challenge going on my personal Facebook right now, and it's literally like I'm asking, and this is shiny. This is funny though, because I'm like, what just happened? Finding out that somebody is no longer a sitting judge, and yet they state that they can practice or that they practice in a certain state for 14 years, but they're not licensed to do so. And furthermore, they're impersonating a federal judge because they haven't removed that from their bio. Yeah, that happened. Definitely ties into the cab too. I'm not going to tell you how. Not yet. Not yet. It'll come. It'll come. Maybe. Maybe. Um, I look like hell. Okay, that's okay. Anyway, so Shine object syndrome. Okay, so Awet and Tiffany, Awet said the best thing, and that was community gardens. And again, I tied that back to 40 acres and a mule because when I moved to Eastlake and Eastlake, but even prior to Eastlake, when I first moved to East Atlanta prior gentrification, everybody had gardens and everybody in that community took care of each other. So snap be damned, they took care of each other. Most of them didn't even have government assistance. Most of them, this is not like an old person thing. This is literally like 2000, yeah, 2003. And then I would dare say take it out to 2000. Like I still saw the same people doing the same thing when we sold our house. Shit, and that was in like 2018. Yeah. So people in Owet's community specifically being able to have a community garden is huge. Lord knows we have enough land to do just that. That hasn't been tainted yet. That hasn't had a parking lot put on it. That hasn't had anything ruined yet. Tiffany supported that. Tiffany supported some other really good ideas. And like I said, I'm gonna give Ted credit. His ideas were really good. Melody's not so much. Molly, it's okay. Like I said, she's got a whole ass nickname that came along with her prior to Commissioner Melanie Spears. I'm not gonna go there. I'll be nice. Anyway, um, so my proposal is this. And stick with me if you haven't already like shiny object syndrome out on me because God knows I deserve it. Why don't we just, as DeKalb County, hit pause? Not me, because I don't live there. But I'm just going to say to stakeholders, why don't you just hit the pause button real quick, okay? Let me tell you why. You're not going to, I don't think it's a good idea that DeKalb County be handed any lump sums of money anymore. I think the love needs to be shared. I think the taxes need to be shared. I think that the city schools of Decatur are fucked because DeKalb County is fucking greedy. I think Atlanta public schools could be doing better, but they're fucked too because of DeKalb County. And let's not even get into Brookhaven and John Park and Mayor Ernst, like former like Mayor Ernst. Like those motherfuckers been trying to sell shit for years. I mean, shit, they want to annex. Nah. So just like Dunwoody wants to annex. Brookhaven, Dunwoody, Chambly, man, they just let them annex them damn selves. Who cares? Let them have the schools that they got over there and let them do whatever the hell they want to do because the only people in the fucking district that raise more hell than anybody else is those motherfuckers. Let them have their goddamn annex. Just remove them from the equation because you've got a lot of other options, y'all. You've got other tax generating things, other pieces of land that you can use to get that money. Plus, fiscally speaking, we don't have the QBE or the FTE count to even support the QB allotment that the cab got. Now, why is APS doing better in literacy and numeracy with less money? Oh, I know why. The first thing Brian Johnson said when he started, what I'm seeing is a district with way too much money, way too many administrators, and piss poor literacy skills. That's why they're doing better. So why not spread the love? Why don't you just like join forces with APS and City Schools Decatur? Because it's not just people want to demonize the superintendent in City Schools Decatur. She's not an evil human. She's doing what she is. She's grasping at straws, literally. And I take it personal when people fuck with her because I know what Whitaker is capable of doing. But when she's met with a budget shortfall, she can't do what everything she wants to do. It's not Whitaker's fault. She inherited it. And not in a way that like, oh, well, So and so came into the district and inherited. No, 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 no. Whitaker inherited a really fucked up, physically just horrid nightmare when she became superintendent in city schools Decatur. And she's done a really fucking good job, but people still want to drag her because they're not getting what they want. Did you ever think about the fact that she's stretched thin and she doesn't have the money or the FTE count to get that QBE allotment that DeKalb gets? Yeah. So why don't we just share the love? Why don't taxpayers and or stakeholders in DeKalb County get over themselves, first and foremost, and understand you're not the only people that reside within that area. You do know that, right? You know where that Brookhaven, Atlanta, DeKalb thing is? I know. It's right next to Emory. Literally, there's a fucking campus. There's a gigantic, elaborate marker for Brookhaven. And then you're all of a sudden in Emory territory in Atlanta. Now, I'm not mad at Atlanta for trying to get that land back. I'm not mad at APS for trying to get some land. I'm not mad at City Schools Decatur. What I'm mad at is that the Cab County out here spending way too much fucking money trying to keep some land that they're not even using. Look, you lost 20,000 kids in 2 years. 20,000 kids. They're not coming back. Everybody's going to have to face that. And you know what? City Schools Decatur and APS are doing that. The only district that's not doing that would be DeKalb County. You're trying, and I know the people that are on the or that are on the staff who are actively doing really, really hard work, and they're doing it with no fucking data, none, none. If anything, I'm literally about to start sending them just copious amounts of data to back everything they're doing, but I don't need to because I already know the people that are doing the work, and trust me, they're armed to the teeth with data. But I have more that I can give them. So whenever it comes out, whatever happens with SAP, just understand the people that have donated a year, if not almost 2 years of their lives, that they will never get back to this. Just keep in mind, they're not the one making the fucking decisions. They're not the who, the what, they no. So don't burn them at the stake. It's not them making the decision. They have no authority to make the decision. They are there to give feedback, and they're trying to do it with data, and they have none. And it's not because they haven't asked. They've asked, but nobody wants to give it to them. And one could look at the closing of schools in a certain school district in Illinois, and they could tie who was in charge of that back to who's in charge of it here in DeKalb. So this is a time for stakeholders in DeKalb County to make a decision. You can either be proactive and work with your neighbors, or you can continue to be dipshits who fight and bicker about the same thing over and over again and nothing gets done. Listen to Awet and Tiffany. Awet comes from a community of immigrants. Tiffany is still a teacher to her fucking core. Tiffany will not budge. Tiffany is always the dissenting vote for a reason. I don't give a fuck about the other board reps. In fact, I'm not gonna go there. But I'm gonna wrap this up by saying maybe now is the best time for everybody in DeKalb County to kind of like take a step back and look at things from a different lens. I know it's really hard for all you neurotypical parents, but for all the parents that don't have neurotypical kids, hear me out. The reason Anna Hill got voted in on the board was because I backed Anna Hill. I chose Anna over Andrew for a reason. Anna and I talked. We knew each other prior to that, but prior to her running. I knew Anna's background. I knew the background of her child. I knew that nothing had been easy for her and her child. I knew that she had had an advocate and an attorney on on the district's neck the entire time her son was in school. So when the ask came, Lauren, you know, this one or this one won't get the vote if they don't have your backing. Um, I'll admit I waited to the last second, but the inner me had already made my decision on who it needed to be. And right now, everybody is seeing why I made the decision to back Anna, not Andrew. And no offense to Andrew, but Andrew is doing what Andrew does. Okay, so some food for thought, maybe. Like, he's not innocent at all. He's been involved in some shit for a very long time. You need to start asking you need to put some pressure on him. I'm really tired of the pressure only being put on like three people. Put pressure on Andrew. Trust me, he needs it. He's not innocent in anything. But that's just my touch base. And I am going to go ahead and end this and I'm going to go eat and enjoy Halloween tomorrow. Bye.